It is now officially my favorite time of year because this is our 4th annual Humanist Report Awards, where I will nominate 4 things in each category, and then the viewers are going to vote on these different categories. There's going to be the what the F moment of 2018, the badass moment of 2018, we'll crown our scumbag of 2018, and then we'll end the show by crowning our MVP of 2018. And I don't know why I enjoy doing this so much, but I really enjoy it. So let's get to the first category. This is the WTF moment of 2018, and let me tell you, this was really difficult for me to just narrow it down to 4 categories because I think that this entire year, politically at least, can be described as what the fuck. Because Donald Trump is still president, we don't have net neutrality anymore, and there's a lot that went on, but I did narrow it down to 4 categories, and here's my first nomination. Brett Kavanaugh's testimony, which was absolutely just insane to watch, because usually it's the case that if you want to be on the Supreme Court, you're going to try to do your best to not look like an insane, politically motivated conspiracy theorist, but that's not what Brett Kavanaugh did. And this is something that I don't think we can describe as anything but WTF, and it's why Brett Kavanaugh's moment here, his testimony specifically, is WTF to me. It embodies WTF.
This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus.
Now, the second nominee is Brian Kemp's election theft. I don't really have to say too much about this, but if you look at the gubernatorial race in Georgia between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, he stole an election from Stacey Abrams. As Secretary of State, he used his power to suppress the vote, to put voter registrations on hold, and it was close. It was a really close vote. She almost won in spite of his attempt, his successful attempt really to rig the election. And since it was so close, he stole the election. I don't think that that's even disputable at this point. So stealing an election in what's supposed to be a democracy is pretty WTF to me. So that's why it made it on my list. The third nominee in this category is Donald Trump's response to Jamal Khashoggi, because as you all know, Jamal Khashoggi was a journalist for the Washington Post that was murdered at the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Now, the response following was incredibly bizarre because rather than choosing to penalize Saudi Arabia for murdering a journalist, Donald Trump chose to not just do nothing, but he actually rationalized it, saying, well, we have defense deals with Saudi Arabia, so why would we put those in jeopardy when Raytheon and Boeing and Lockheed Martin could be making tons of money? Why would a journalist be important enough to where those deals fall through?
I would not be in favor of stopping a country from spending $110 billion, which is an all-time record, and letting Russia have that money and letting China have that money, because all they're going to do is say, that's okay, we don't have to buy it from Boeing, we don't have to buy it from Lockheed, we don't have to buy it from Raytheon and all these great companies. We'll buy it from Russia. We'll buy it from China. So what good does that do us?
Yeah, so that speaks for itself as to why it made it onto the list. But my final nomination of 2018 for the biggest WTF moment is Donald Trump's family separation policy, because it really, I think it was a new low for the United States in terms of cruelty, because we claim to care about human rights, but yet Donald Trump thought that locking children in cages, literally separating families at the border and putting children in cages, was a way that he could deter other immigrants from coming into the United States. Now, deterrence isn't something that necessarily works because these people are fleeing violence. They're fleeing violence and they don't really feel as if they have a choice. Either stay in your home country or be killed, or leave to the United States and possibly be locked in a cage, but at least you'll be alive. So that is just, it's fascism. It's textbook fascism right there. So that is exactly why I had to put it as one of the nominees. So let's get to the results here. With a total of 2.8 thousand votes on YouTube, coming in fourth place with 17% of the vote is Brian Kemp's election theft in Georgia. With 21% of the vote, Kavanaugh's testimony in response to Ford's allegations came in third. With 25% of the vote, Trump's response to Saudi Arabia's murder of Khashoggi came in second. And in first place on YouTube, with 37% of the vote, Donald Trump's family separation is our YouTube viewers' choice for WTF moment of the year. Now moving on to our Patreon patrons, with 44 total votes, Kavanaugh's testimony came in first place, with Trump's family separation policy coming in second place. And then in third, with 10 votes, we have Trump's response to Khashoggi. And in fourth place, we have Brian Kemp's election theft with 8 votes. And when we go to Twitter, our Twitter viewers sided with our Patreon patrons because to them, with 33% of the vote, Kavanaugh's testimony is the biggest WTF moment, with Trump's family separation policy coming in a close second. And with 20% of the vote, Trump's response to Khashoggi, as well as Brian Kemp's election theft, came in third place. So with that being said, it was relatively close because we have different portions of the audience disagreeing, but since there's more votes, well, we have to base it on the YouTube count, because overall, it's clear you guys thought that Donald Trump's family separation policy is the biggest what the fuck moment of 2018. And I agree with that. I can see why you guys chose that. All of these were WTF moments to me, and it seems like the individuals who were voting on this poll tend to agree with that and had a hard time choosing, because as Aleza Siebert states, they were all huge WTF moments. And Planet Love says 2018 is the year of all of the above. Couldn't agree more. Michelle Earthstrike says an actual fascist was elected in Brazil. And yeah, actually, Jair Bolsonaro was one of the preliminary nominees for me, because that was also a huge what the fuck moment. But the reason why he got axed at the last moment was because traditionally these lists have always been American-centric, but because of Jair Bolsonaro, I thought that it would be fit to maybe create like an international category next year, because if I was really going to include international nominees here, then I'd have a lot more choices, and this list would be a lot more difficult. So I totally see where you're coming from. And yeah, this was one of those all of the above years. So that's your choice for what the fuck moment of 2018, Donald Trump's family separation policy.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.